Well, Bill Gates once said content is king. Today, some might argue that AI is fast emerging as the new kingmaker. In today's episode, we're discussing how the University of Leicester is using AI and content to create more personalised digital experience, improve engagement, and lay the foundations for the future. I'm Mark Britton. Welcome to the Digital Lounge. So, joining me today is Stuart Hainsworth, Deputy Director of Marketing at the University of Leicester. Stuart leads the university's digital engagement strategy, spanning digital channels, CRM, content, and marketing technology. Also joining me on the show today is Nathan Smith, Industry Practice Director for Higher Education at Crimson. Nathan works with universities across the UK on digital transformation, AI, and student engagement initiatives. Welcome, gents, both to today's show. It's great to have you on. Stuart, if I can first of all turn to you. Universities are facing significant challenges at the moment around student recruitment, engagement, and financial sustainability. What are the pressures that you're seeing right now, and how are they influencing your priorities?
Hi, Mark. It's great to be here, first of all. I think the pressures are unprecedented. I think a lot of my contemporaries in the higher education sector have said the same previously. I think this time has represented kind of the most macro and micro challenges I think I've ever experienced in my time in higher education. And I think the pressure is no longer kind of just on student recruitment and not just in terms of volume. I think it's around the audience's expectation around the attention that we need to give to them and the content and the experience we need to offer them. I think they expect kind of relevant, personalised experiences. But I think as universities, as a sector, we often have kind of fragmented content, data, and operating models. And I think it's incumbent of me and kind of people like me within universities to look at that and to deliver value and improvement. I think financial constraints are meaning that universities have to prioritize kind of efficiency and impact. I think that's clear, and I think we accept that, and that's fair. So we're focusing on how we can use AI, automation, better use of data and content to help our teams achieve more without simply just adding in resource. I think we'd all like more resource all of the time, but when that's not available, we have to think more clearly around how we can help our colleagues add value in the time that they've got to focus on their activities. Plus, there's the opportunities there around income generation that the challenges that we face at the moment offer, and how we approach them. So how can we use the technology, different ways of working to increase income as well as saving cost? Because I think those two together are part of the answer. And kind of our priority at Leicester is kind of building strong foundations rather than just chasing technology. I think technology alone won't save us and won't kind of deliver the value that we're looking for. It's a partnership between the technology and the people, and it's important that we start with the people, look at the solutions and the problems they're trying to solve, and then looking at things like content and data, strategic assets, improving that CRM and data capability, and creating conditions where we can then use AI to deliver meaningful value. And that's at scale, because we focus on certainly our student recruitment activities. We're looking at thousands and thousands of potential students, and right across our operations at university, because we obviously have a highly respected research aspect of what we do at the University of Leicester. So how do we engage and communicate that audience? So I think CRM, data, content, and AI cuts across all of that, and that's why the university has been investing recently, and that's why we're looking at it as a strategic imperative for us.
Yeah, and then you say, I mean, that you've been investing heavily in digital engagement, content, and AI. What made you decide to start making changes now rather than maybe waiting? It's an uncertain time. That that might be an approach that some might choose to take.
Yeah, and it's a question that I hear a lot. Shall we, shan't we? And by we, the university, by we, the sector, by we, by we as marketeers and those that are interested in digital products and strategy. I think it's clear that kind of a high proportion of our students are already using AI. I think the research that we get, both in terms of higher education and outside of that, is very clear on that. So we need to ensure that we're providing the tools and support for our students and our staff and the people that we work with, to be able to harness that technology, and to use it to achieve their ambitions, and be ready to apply the new skills that they learn at a university in their chosen careers. So I think it's around equipping those students that are coming through the university with both the tools, the support, to make sure that when they do graduate and when they do enter the work arena, that they are able to use AI effectively, to enhance what they would already offer to the market. So it's not around kind of removing people from jobs or AI taking jobs. It's around making sure that you're capable and able to use those AI technologies in a way that makes you even more employable and invaluable to the employer. I think kind of the environment around us is changing too quickly for us to stand still. I think week by week, almost day by day. I mean, kind of the news this week about kind of OpenAI and the challenges that they've had, takes the conversation on again and takes the technology into a new conversation, as well. So I think the student expectations around this continue to change, and like I say, we can't stand still. So the university is kind of seeing the opportunity, to kind of strengthen our foundations, before we kind of scale that innovation. And that's why not only have we invested in AI via Microsoft Copilot, we're also doing the same in content, CRM, and other digital platforms. So we want to create the conditions for AI and personalization, that deliver that kind of real value. And our focus has been on, like I say, on being proactive rather than reactive. We want to understand what our prospective and current students and staff are telling us, the challenges that they have, the opportunities that they see, because a lot of this talk and a lot of the conversation is all around the challenges and the kind of the risks, the fears, which are relevant, and we need to be aware of those. But what are the opportunities here, and how can we use AI? How I see it as kind of like human AI, human sandwich almost, to mean that colleagues and students can use it to deliver value in their roles, whatever that means for them.
Brilliant. Nathan, if I could turn to you, I mean, you're speaking to universities all over the country. Clearly, Stuart at University of Leicester, they're proactive. They're trying to stay on the front foot with this pace. Is that reflected elsewhere in the market? What are you seeing? Are people reacting to events, or are they being a little bit more strategic and being on that front foot?
Both. Doesn't help when I say that. I think go back to some. Just picking up a few of the points that Stuart just raised there. I think that just from a sector perspective, that whether there's sort of market conditions that are actually having impact there, or actually what's the impact on actually how you go through and deliver the curriculum. And back to Stuart's point there, how do you get students ready when they leave university to go into a workplace where ultimately industry is also investing in that space as well. So I don't think as a sector there is what we're seeing universities do is an acceptance that AI isn't something, should we, shouldn't we. It's probably the should we, shouldn't we is on specific use cases rather than should we or shouldn't we look at the opportunities with AI. Yeah, so I think that's the bit. It's actually where we're seeing working with other universities. It's still in that, right, where are those opportunities and what approaches are they actually taking to try and identify where the opportunities are for transformation. And I think what's really interesting, again, I know there's some parallels with what Stuart's talking about. There's that approach whereby you've got to get it out there and actually educate the end user, whether that be the faculty, staff, academics, but also the students as well, because you want them to foster ideas and come up with ideas for what you're looking for. But you've also got to go and have a look at where those big strategic opportunities might be for a specific university based around those market conditions or what they're trying to do moving further forward, as well as sort of redesigning the curriculum and thinking about some of the things. So there's just a lot. There's a lot of things that the organisations have to do, and I think that's part of the challenge. It's knowing where really to go and sort of, how do we? You kind of said it there, Stuart. How do we operationally need to change slightly, to tweak, to support driving that through? Not just driving it through, but doing it well and doing it successfully as well, when you don't always have all the answers. So it's interesting, but I don't think there isn't one university that was, or somebody, different stakeholders in the university we're speaking to, that they're all doing something. Yeah, I haven't come across anyone that's going,
yeah, just approaching it from different angles. Well, Stuart, I know that you've talked about the importance of personalization, personalized experiences. I'm curious, how are you thinking about personalization, and where do you see the role of CRM and digital channels playing in delivering that?
I think that's interesting, because when we talk about personalization, it's been around for a long time. I think we talk around personalization based on personas and what we think our audience are looking for, and then that's informed by CRM data, and it's kind of the sweet spot of where we know enough to personalize experiences for our audiences without it being creepy and without it being over the line and without there being concerns around privacy and data. But I think personalization, certainly in the last couple of years, because of the rise in LLMs and their use and how embedded they are now in a lot of what our audiences are doing, I think personalization now even more starts with relevance, not kind of technology. And the students don't want more content. They get advertising messages and content coming at them from everywhere constantly whenever they open their eyes, it seems. So they don't want more content, they want the right information in the right place and at the right time. I don't think that's changed. I think that's always been kind of what as marketers, that's what we do, that's what we look to achieve. We don't want to cram content into a space where either it's not going to be consumed and or we then have to pay for the pleasure of it not being consumed, because we're paying for really high value spaces sometimes. So we want it in the right space at the right time and based on what students want as part of their journey. And I think content is the foundation of that. I think if your content becomes or is inconsistent, or it's duplicated, or it's difficult to reuse, or no one knows where it is, or it's just created and just left, and we build and build and build as part of our business as usual, then personalization becomes kind of almost impossible. I think that's why we're focusing on that structured and well-managed content as a strategic asset, and treating content as a resource, and that will then mean that we can scale, not so much at pace, but more we can scale strategically, and we can deliver it in a far more kind of dynamic way, without having to rebuild the engine all of the time. I think CRM, content, and digital channels clearly need to work together on this, and that's why kind of at Leicester, where, like I said previously, we're investing in our CRM, in our content management, and in our AI offer. And I think when those elements are connected, you can create kind of a more relevant journeys. And I think what's important in that context is that we do it at scale, because of how we recruit and how competitive it is, and how rightly our prospective students audiences are so demanding of what they want and what they don't want. I think there is no other choice. We have to do this, and we have to do it well. And that's our opportunity, and that's what's exciting at the moment at Leicester.
Yeah, and you talk about treating content as a strategic asset rather than just something that gets published. I mean, why is that important? And what needs to change in how universities manage content, in your view, from maybe what you're seeing elsewhere in the sector?
I think, like I say, it's one of our most valuable assets, because a few reasons really. I think content is the output of many colleagues' valuable time as subject matter experts, whether they're our academic colleagues, whether they're research academics as well, whether they're professional services colleagues. they're all subject matter experts. The time's very valuable. We ask them to do lots of things, and when they create content, it needs to be created with the support of insight and tools that allow them to do it well, and allow them to maintain that content in the most efficient way that we can. The reason why, again, that content's so valuable, it shapes our recruitment, it shapes our student experience, it supports our reputation. It is our reputation in some instances when it's on the website and it's there to consume, and LLMs are diving in and grabbing what they think are the answers and shaping those experiences inside those black boxes. It's so important, but often it's managed on, especially in a website context, it's managed on individual pages rather than as institutional resource. So the shift that we're making is kind of from publishing content to truly managing content. So that means a lot of positive change. So better governance, clearer ownership, structured content, and a real kind of investment and focus on how we support colleagues in maintaining that quality of content, so we can reuse it consistently across channels, because we're focusing on the website in the first instance, which is normally the first stop and the last stop of any content management project. But because content is that resource, and to use an analogy, if we look at it kind of as Lego, we can break it apart and build it and reshape it however we want, but it has to be of quality, and it has to last. And then with AI in the mix, that makes it even more important. Both in terms of what the LLMs are asking for, but in terms of what we can use AI for, in terms of supporting colleagues in how they choose to create that content. So informing them on what content might be more effective in terms of the type of content experiences that we give to our users. Do we need a 24-page PDF document? No, we don't. But if we need that from a compliance sense, how do we then present that information in a way that's compliant, accessible, but also that converts? And a conversion might be the content just gets consumed, which is fine. It might be they read some content and they book an open day, which is another conversion point for us as well. So there's lots converging at the moment, and it's really exciting. With the conditions that we're in higher education, with the challenges that we face, I think we need to meet them with that excitement and with that curiosity, but we can't get this wrong. So it's important that we focus on those areas.
Yeah, and you talk about curiosity. I think it's really interesting how Leicester have taken a really significant step with Microsoft Copilot, and from what you were describing before we went live on the show, it's something that you're giving to all staff and students, if I'm right. Can you sort of explain what led to that decision to sort of be bold with Copilot, and where you see the opportunities initially with that tool across the institution?
Yeah, I think, like I say, it's certainly our students and our colleagues are already using it. It's there. It's ubiquitous. We also see around us, and I feel personally, over the last kind of 6-12 months, there has been a lot of okay, this is great. Now what? Now what can we do with it? Where should we go with it? What shall we do? What shan't we do? Will it take my job? Will it take my relatives' jobs and generational jobs in the future? But I think the thing at the moment is to be more proactive than respond. I think it's a clear decision from the university to invest in this area, and I think we've done the right thing. What really kind of was really important before we did that is that we looked at what the practical applications of that AI technology for the university would be. So we did a pilot with around 60 staff to look at how we would use Copilot in their day-to-day and in their group work and in their project work, and that brought us a lot of feedback and a lot of positive signals around how that would work. Obviously, it brought us a lot of areas that we need to focus on around what will our policies be, how will we support colleagues in this brave new world, and how do we make sure we've got the infrastructure in place that means that when the technology is there, that colleagues feel supported and feel empowered, without it being, here's the technology, off you go. Which is something that we would never do. It's something that we've thought a lot about, and there are hundreds of colleagues in the university working on this. I am just one of those, and it's really exciting to see. What's important for me personally is that we have the human in the loop at all times. So I speak about kind of the human AI, human sandwich, and that's how I like to think about it. It's a bit like data. If you were to use data, you wouldn't just use it and that'll be it, because of anomalies, because of things that just don't make sense. And in a way, with AI and its kind of hallucinations and everything else that we hear about, I think it's important that if you think about a virtual team of 4, 5, 6, 7 colleagues, and you're working on a project, if there are 2 empty chairs in the room, if one's data, the other one's AI, that to me feels appropriate, but it doesn't replace the other humans in the room by any means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. And Nathan, just sort of looping you in on this. Are you seeing sort of a similar kind of feel in them across the UK when it comes to the appetite for Copilot?
Yeah, it's out there. I think again, it's back to that. What's it being used for? Who's adopting it? I don't think that it's embedded a lot of across. There's lots of variants of Copilot, right? So it's embedded across a lot of the Microsoft platform capabilities. Stuart's already alluded to here as an example. Leicester have got CRM in play. CRM will have agentic AI capabilities embedded within it as a platform. You've got it within M365. You've got it across the board. I think the bit there is, are we seeing people sort of turn it on, try it? Yes, we are. I think it goes back to, and I know it was you go everything that Stuart's saying. I was smiling as you were going through there, Stuart, because I think you've talked about human in the loop there, actually, making sure that you're actually adding value and that it's there to assist and, being an extension to the team, not to replace. And if I go back to, from a use case perspective, I love what you're working on because it's the first time we said this before, it's the first time I've come across it as a particular use case, starting with content, looking at information assets, and then how you manage it. But we've been trying to do that with different technologies for a very long time, whether it be sort of document management, information management systems, but there's still improvements that could be driven through, right, around that whole content management, information management process and governance that we need to do. And I think what you're looking at is going, okay, well, look, I'm accepting that agentic AI is here. How can it come in and support what we're doing? How can it make it better? How can we improve what we're trying to do anyway? So you're not trying to change necessarily the fact that you're going, we need really good quality content. It's an enabler. We need really good quality information assets. What you're doing is there's this whole new capability that's come along. Let's embrace it and let's see how it can be applied for us. And I think that's the same thing there, Mark. It's actually where we're seeing people, turn Copilot on. It's that element of trial and saying, from bottom up, how can it be used? And again, that top down piece as well. But yeah, it's definitely more, as I say, there's definitely been a bit of a shift where if you'd have asked me this question 12 months ago, I do think there would have been certain organizations that might have still been sitting on the fence slightly around where do we dip our toes or where do we go? Whereas now that's not the case.
Yeah. Stuart, we've got a couple of questions coming in, so I'm just going to bring those in if I may. I've just Charlotte Ridley's asking specifically around who's producing the content, the process of creating it. Is there a single source of truth for that? And then is Copilot the home of the internal knowledge bank? There's a few questions here. I don't know whether you might be able to address those. I'm assuming you can see them on your screen as well. Can you? Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take them in turn. So in terms of who's producing the content, I think the content is because we're not right at the start of our project, but we're in relatively early days of the University Content Management project, which is one of the kind of the drivers of the change. In terms of who's producing the content, that varies. So website content produced in a traditional kind of monolith content management system at the moment by anywhere between 150 and 200 colleagues around the university. Plus there are academic staff and other colleagues that have people profile pages. We have content in CRM, we have content in in SAP, we have content in lots of different data areas, and I want to move to a point where the data store is the most appropriate for the institution. So I'm not being prescriptive around all the content needs to go into the content management system, or we have to integrate wholly with CRM and everything has to go into CRM. It has to be single source of truth, but it has to be in the system that makes most sense strategically and practically for colleagues as well. So that's part of the opportunity there to review that, not unpick everything and start again and remodel everything, because we're not saying everything needs fixing by any means. It's around making sure that we have the content in the most appropriate place to be able to integrate and manage effectively. So in terms of the process of creating it, that happens in different ways as well. So in the content management system, as part of system updates and records that we have on different areas of the university, so that sits in different data stores. So it's around, like I said previously, it's around supporting colleagues and to enable them to work how they want to work, to add the value they want to add, and to create the opportunities and the savings in their context, rather than us dictating, oh, you'll save 3 hours a week by doing it in this way. It's what feels better for you, and how do you think this could add value to your role in your area. So it's Copilot, the home of the internal knowledge bank. Just reading through that question as I understand it. So internal knowledge bank, if we're talking about chatbots, we have a user-facing chatbot on our website, which we're using Copilot for. We're not at the point yet where we're using Copilot as a master internal knowledge bank. We've yet to roll it out to all of our students and staff. So that will be something that we will look at. How do we manage the source of truth within our own institution, and how does that happen? And how involved are academic departments? Yeah, in terms of the AI rollout, it's institution wide. Like I mentioned previously, it's involving many colleagues, and it has to be that way, because if we don't do it that way, then it won't be as effective as we want it to be. And that's not how we work at Leicester. We're collaborative. We have to have colleagues involved in shaping how things affect their working lives, because there is no other way. You have to start with the people.
Brilliant. Just for anybody that's interested, we have got some content on Crimson's website around using SharePoint as a central hub for content, and using tools like Microsoft Purview for tidying up data as well. So that might be of use. Charlotte, thank you very much for the question. We do have just one more question from Student Engagement Team, a collective there. Thank you for joining us today. Do you have a formal training program for staff to use Copilot, Stuart?
I think we're working on that right now. So again, it's not been that long since we announced the collaboration with Microsoft. So that's in the planning now.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on because we're fast running out of time. Stuart, just thinking, so if the university is looking at AI personalization or digital engagement initiatives, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them about where to start?
There's a few. I think start with the opportunity, start with the person, and what we're trying to achieve. It's not always a problem. It might be an opportunity, but certainly start with that. I think looking at things like user stories isn't a bad place to start, as we've traditionally done for years. So the what, the when, the why, the who, and what you're trying to achieve. I think you won't go far wrong if you look at that. Then look at the foundations first. Kind of crawl, walk, and run isn't a bad analogy in that sense. I don't think these things have changed too much over time, but I think sometimes you can get distracted by the shiny new thing coming over the hill, and it's like it's AI and it's great and we're all in. But if it's not delivering value, and if you're not focusing on the people and the opportunity, and all the opportunity and all the problem you're trying to solve, then you will go away, and you'll you become busy fools almost, because you'll be away trying to do all of this stuff at the same time, and nothing much will float to the top. So I think certainly piloting is definitely the way to go, but making sure your pilots are focused, making sure they're delivering on the value that you think they're going to deliver before you start scaling. And I think evolution, not revolution. Look at how this can augment and add value to colleagues who are subject matter experts, who know what they're doing, give them the tools and support to use the technology to improve it how they see improvements being made. I think they're principles that will serve most people well.
Fantastic. And Nathan, Stuart talks about shiny new thing syndrome. We've got a few workshops that can help get some prioritization around thinking. Do you want to sort of share a couple of bits around that?
Yeah, I think that there's several. So we do things. We do Art the Possible sessions when we come out, but we focus very much around the outcomes. So Stuart, back to your point, it's going back in and they're focused around specific use cases or outcomes, or what people are trying to drive. So yes, we will showcase AI and different technology capabilities in there, but it's not necessarily led around, let's just talk about the tech. It's very much, Mark, to your point, with the business stakeholders going, look, we understand your world and what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve and the outcomes that come through. We've got different elements around AI transformation. Again, if you're thinking about where you start and actually making sure that you've got all the relevant component parts in place to successfully drive transformation, we can cover that through. And then the other one, which again you've covered off quite a bit, Stuart, is also kind of operationally, and then even from a governance point of view, what do you need to start thinking about in those areas as well? Not just to start, but then if you always go happy path here, you start, you get those early success, and then you want to scale. What are the considerations that you need to put in place, and what are the things you need to start thinking about now? Because it's back to that point earlier, Mark. There's a big theme in here, and through the conversations, you're just going back to the basics around what's good transformation, what are the foundations you need to put into play, irrespective of now my technology kit, my estate has grown. Yeah, yes, I've got to educate, I've got to let people know around what's possible, but ultimately, if we push this out here and it starts to work, how do we educate? How do we keep that going? How do we support the people, the process, and measure the outcome? And I think we're seeing a shift back into, right, we're getting our head around AI now. How do we get better at transformation? Yeah, so it's both in parallel.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you. And just one final word from you, Stuart. Before we went live with the show, we were talking about the world of work, and you were saying talking about a new initiative that Leicester have around helping undergraduates with work-related experience. Can you share a little bit about that? I think it'd be of interest to our audience.
Yeah, I think as part of what we're doing as an institution, focusing on the kind of that student experience and the proposition, how do we add value to where students want to get to? So they come to us with an aspiration of studying a certain subject, to develop a career in a certain area. AI will be part of that in the coming years. I think something that we invested in as I've been through, but I think we've also launched recently 100 hours work-related learning for every undergraduate course. And I think that's so important in terms of giving students the opportunity to apply to acquire those skills and those working relationships and those problem solving elements of what that will bring. So I think that's so powerful for us to add to that student proposition, and we're thinking about how we can maintain that and how we can improve that experience for the students all the time. So I think that's something we've launched for this year. That coupled with AI and a few other things that we've got coming up, I think are going to make a big difference. So we're really proud of that, yeah, looking forward to how that rolls out over the next academic year.
Fantastic. Well, Stuart, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really interesting to hear what your university is up to, and we wish you all the best with the new academic year. So thank you for joining us. Nathan, thank you too for joining us today on the Digital Lounge. So that's it for today. Thank you. Hopefully that's been of value to you. You can always join our newsletter. So you can find our newsletter at info.crimson.co.uk/newsletter. There you can just pop in your email address and we'll keep you updated with other podcasts, our latest case studies, latest information that we're seeing from around the sectors that we work in. So housing, higher education, local government, we're seeing lots of activity going on all over the place at the moment, and we're trying to share all those best bits with you across every medium that we can. So until next time, we will see you again very soon on the Digital Lounge.